Guys, welcome back to another episode. It's been a minute, it's been a while since we've done a full day of eating, but I've had a few people message me and request it. They want to see what I'm eating throughout the day, training day, rest day, or just in prep. Unfortunately, I didn't do one, which I should have done at the peak of off season. When calories like 6,000 plus 7,000, I should have done one, but I didn't. So I'm now going to keep it fairly consistent now with full days of eating. If ever there's a food change or anything, maybe every 2 weeks, I'll do a full day of eating and take you through what I'm doing. So today is a rest day, so lower food on today. So it's confusing how my kind of eating works and how I spread it, how I do it. But I train fasted, so I have my pre-workout meal the night before. If you've been watching me for a few years, you would have heard me explain this many times, but I have my pre-workout meal the night before I train. So I have my rest day food, which is 5 meals, and then I have the additional pre-workout meal on the same day. So my rest day calories are about 3,600. Add the pre-workout meal on top of that, we're looking at probably 4,100 for today. But obviously that pre-workout meal is taken from tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll just have my 5 meals out of my training day and not have my pre-workout meal, if that makes sense. So I'm up slightly on calories today for this rest day, but I'm down slightly tomorrow for my training day. So it equals out. I'm just taking tomorrow's pre-workout meal and putting it today so I can train fasted. So that's how today's going to go. Like I said, looking at 4,100, 4,200 calories today. Six meals today in total. 5 rest day meals with a pre-workout meal. So we have done cardio, half an hour cardio at the moment, every single day, 7 days a week. I've done about 4,000 steps this morning. I did my cardio, did abs as well at the gym, rope crunches and lying leg raises, and then drove home, had a call with my athlete manager from ESN, and then went out and did 4,000 steps, and now we're back, showered, ready for meal one. This is probably my favourite meal of the day, just because there's 3 different things. I'm slowly starting to enjoy my food again. I spent the last 15 months absolutely hating food, pushing food up to the extremes, and being in that place for a long time. But in an off season, if you're doing an off season properly, that's what's needed. That is what you need to do. Okay, you need to be able to stay in that calorie surplus for as long as possible, because if you don't, then we're not going to add the tissue on that we actually need. So that's kind of where I was at. And like I said, I'm in a position now where I'm actually spending a bit more time and effort being put into my meals, and actually, cooking them properly and everything. Adding different seasonings. If you don't know, my main job, I'm a private chef. So I've been a chef for the last 9-10 years. Worked in restaurants since I was 16, and then came out of restaurants about 5 years ago, and went self-employed and started my private chef business. So I'm a chef. People will see my Instagram stories and be like, that looks absolutely horrendous. I don't really care when it comes to myself in terms of food and bodybuilding. I just don't care. I spend so much time, a lot of the time of the week, preparing meals for clients, and dinners, 5 courses, 9 courses. So I spend a lot of time in the kitchen, as well as you all know, if you're bodybuilding, you spend the majority of the time in the kitchen anyway, preparing your meals. So I'm in here pretty much all day. So, you know, the last thing I want to do is put more effort kind of into my food. So I didn't really do that in the off season, and to be honest, prep is, I keep it pretty boring, you know, fish and rice, chicken and rice. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. But like I said, at the moment, I'm kind of trying to enjoy my food a bit better. And as obviously hunger goes up, I want to kind of eat a bit more and try different things, make things taste a bit nicer, you know. So that's kind of, you know, where we're at with that. So just putting my cutlery away. But yeah, we're at a point right now where food is still pretty high. My training food at the moment is 4.2, so 4,200. And like I said, my rest day food is 3,600. We're trying to keep food as high as possible to basically make sure training is being done at the highest level possible, so that we're not cutting ourselves short with training at all. I'm actually going to talk you through what I'm doing at the moment, since the full day of eating started rambling on about what we're doing. But so I have 3 parts to my breakfast, meal 1. My first one, I have 1 bagel, 2 whole eggs, 4 hex sausages, chicken, and then I have 50 grams of oats, which you just see me weigh out, and then I do 225 gram of the Fdoe Greek yogurt, 0% fat. I was having egg whites, but I had a bit of a flare up, so I've taken egg whites out for the time being. I'll probably add them back in. But at the moment, I'm actually really enjoying the yogurt meal, to be honest, after the eggs and the oats. It's quite a nice, you know, start to the day. Nice, quite nice for the palate as well. So I'll just tear that. 225 grams of Fdoe. This gets berries on as well. So do frozen berries on this, which is an elite combo. Just get the mixed berries. So mixed berries, and I don't. This is a question I've had before as well, in terms of how I weigh stuff out in prep. I don't weigh my fruit out, and I don't weigh my veg out. The only kind of fruit that I look at in terms of something I track is bananas, because I have bananas every day, so I track them. I only have 1 a day, 2 a day on rest days. But like mixed berries and veggies, you know, like I'll have 2 tomatoes with this meal. I don't really incorporate that in my carbohydrates or anything. They just stay consistent through prep. As long as, you know, I'm not putting in like a whole kilo of tomatoes 2 weeks out, then we're all good. You know, we can stay in that kind of vicinity and work around it. So I've got the hex sausages in at the moment. I'm just kind of getting all my other bits sorted for what we need to do. So with the tomatoes, a little tip, what I'm doing at the moment, just remembered I should have picked up pink Himalayan salt this morning, but we were rushing around today. So in terms of the tomatoes that I do, another key tip, always get yourself a thick wooden chopping board. And the best chopping boards out there. So in terms of, I don't know if you can see me, in terms of tomatoes, I just quarter them. So quarter them, and then I don't really want to have them cold, so I add them to one of my takeaway dishes that I use for my prep. Weigh my salt out. So if I don't have any pink Himalayan salt, which is the position we're in today, I use the low sodium salt. That goes in, and then I keep my salt for the day in a little tub. So I do 5 grams of low sodium salt, and then today, just because we haven't got any pink Himalayan, I'll just do normal table salt. Do 8 grams of that, which is fine. Fine for today. I'll get some tomorrow. As long as we're having enough salt, that is the main thing. And keeping our hydration levels in a good place. And then all I do with tomatoes is I will put some of this salt over the top, and then they literally go in the microwave for about 1.5 to 2 minutes, and that's it, done. Bagel, standard New York bagel. Sometimes I'll have sourdough instead, but usually it's New York bagel. Easiest way to cut a bagel, if you don't know, in the hand. Don't use chopping board. We're going to start putting all this together now. Egg sausages are ready. Oats are about to go in. Tomatoes are in the microwave. The favourite part of the breakfast is my coffee. So I'm going to use my see-through. It's the favourite part of the meal for me. Coffee and prep is absolute life. When it starts to get down to like 6 weeks out, or when hunger starts to really start ramping up, I have my double espresso in the morning, coffee when I get home with meal 1, and then decaf coffee in the afternoon, just to see me through, just because coffee is quite a big addiction of mine when I'm hungry, so I like to kind of have that. So tomatoes done. 1.5 minutes, get some soft and warm. Not so cold. I don't want to have cold food with hot food. I'd rather have it all hot. So we've got a bagel to go in, 2 eggs, 2 whole eggs. Like I said, I did have my about 200 gram of egg whites with this meal, but I'm taking them out for now. But yeah, coffee wise, I either do my espresso, you can probably see it in the corner over there, or this is my go-to, Azera Americano. It's my go-to. About 2 heaped spoons of that is perfect. Just strong enough. Get rid of that. And as I go through prep, I start to increase the amount of coffee I'm using, just because I like how strong it is. So do about that much. Eggs. Like I said, hex sausages are ready, so we're pretty much ready to go. Air fryer for the hex sausages, and air fryer for the bagel as well. So if you're wanting to use the air fryer for the bagel, roast it on 200 and drop it down to 2 minutes, and it's perfect toasted bagel. I don't see no point in having a toaster as well. The air fryer does the same thing. So just making sure the oats don't overflow. What pet hates is when the oats overflow. So we're good. 20 grams of jam with my oats. I always make sure I have jam with oats. Doesn't matter how far my calories come down. If I'm having oats, I'm having jam as well. Rice cakes and jam is my other addiction at the moment. The last time I had rice cakes and jam was Prep 2023, and was probably show day. It was the last time I had them. So it's quite nice to put them back into the plan and be able to kind of sit down. You know, my last meal last night was six rice cakes, 38 grams of jam, and 2 scoops of whey. Just a nice, enjoyable meal and nice to go to bed on. So it's pretty good just having them back in. So yeah, just waiting on that now. Eggs can go in. In terms of poaching eggs, make sure the water is simmering. Add some salt into your water. Crack the eggs in and leave it. Leave it until they're pretty ready. And then just keep checking them. I don't really have a time for poached eggs. 2-3 minutes is probably good. The salt, if you put the salt in the water, it helps bind the egg white to the yolk, which makes it a decent shape instead of sometimes if you forget to put it in, or you just have water and you put the egg in and the white will just fuck off everywhere. So either white wine vinegar or salt does the trick. Not loads of salt, you don't need to full send it on the salt, but you know, a bit. So there you go, toasted bagel straight out the air fryer. Simple. Hex sausages done in the air fryer as well. And then coffee, black coffee. Yeah. Best part of the day. At the moment, be as transparent as I can. This is what I'm doing, so I'm not suggesting you do this. Got insane. Well, this is what we're doing at the moment, and I'm documenting my journey and what we're doing. So we're doing every day. I'll do after my meal 1, 20 IU of Lantus. That's just gone up from 10 IU, which was last week, but we want the body to start burning a bit more, so utilising a bit more insulin. I'm still using Nova Rapid as well, post-training, but I don't have that on rest days, just Lantus on rest days. So that's my insulin protocol. I know people have different views on insulin. I've used it for the past few years. It's been good. I haven't really seen any negatives from it for me to say don't use it. Obviously don't start using it if you just see this video and think, oh, I'm going to get on some Lantus. That's not how that works. You need to be in a position where you can actually utilize it, and be in that position. So eggs are done. Just touch the yolk to make sure it's cooked, and you still want the yolk runny. That's obviously the main reason you have poached eggs, is to get that runny yolk. Main reason I do anyway. So fairly simple. And then we do salt over the top of the poached eggs, and then something I've just added back in with it being prep is pepper, because now I'm all about flavour, and I just wasn't before. I was having pancakes in the off season, so I blend up my oats, eggs and a bit of whey and have that instead. So yeah, I will show you finished product. Add the tomatoes on. There we go. Show you the finished. So this is what we're looking like phage, mixed berries, 50 gram of oats. That was a 225 gram phage. 50 gram of oats, 20 grams of jam, 1 bagel, 2 whole eggs, 4 egg sausages, tomatoes, black coffee. Right, so we're back for meal number 2. It's about 2 o'clock, half 2 maybe, right now. So meal 2 is still kind of one of my meals that I was having in the off season. So I'm yet to change it into kind of more of a prep meal, because food, like I've said before, hasn't actually got too low for me to really change anything drastic. So what I was having in the off season, for the whole off season, every single rest day, every single time for meal 2 is, my meals wouldn't change. Okay, so from whenever I started with Luke, which was like 4 or 5 years ago, meals haven't changed at all, really. Obviously I'll swap things like rice and pasta, swap them around, but the standard meals, I used to be on a meal plan with Luke, and he would just tell me what to eat and I would copy it. Then we moved over, when we went into prep, we moved over to him just giving me macros, which I'm more than happy doing. And now I've just set up like a spreadsheet, so I've got my own sheet for my nutrition, which I do for all my clients anyway, so it's pretty simple. Which basically just has all my training day, rest day nutrition on. But I've kept the same layout in terms of what meals we were having then, what meals we're having now. Obviously, more food and everything, things get added in, prep comes around, things get taken out. We go back and forth between, you know, the off-season food and kind of prep food, what meals I was having. Like I said before about having the rice cakes at night with whey, that's something that I didn't do last prep. So that's something different. I'm doing this prep. Little things get changed every year because you obviously change as a person, change situations, try different foods, try different combinations, things like that. But the basis around nutrition kind of stays the same. So this is kind of like was my like treat I would have in an off season when my food was much lower, when I was peaking food at like 4,000, 4,500, and for me that was a lot of food back then, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Now peaking food at 6,000 or 7,000, it's a bit different. So basically I have a whole one of these Outpro no sugars plain. So one of these goes in. You might have seen this if you follow me on Instagram. You might have seen me have this, but I have a full one of these. This has got no, in the off season I would use the vanilla one, which has carbohydrates in. This has got no carbs, no sugars, per 100. So it's got 10 grams of fat and 20 grams of protein. So fairly fine. That will get swapped out eventually. I then have peanut butter. So for this whole meal is 25 grams of peanut butter. So I'll have about 12 grams in here, and then 13 grams. 12. I've just done 13 grams in here, and then I've got chicken in, so I've got 190 grams of chicken in the air fryer, and I do my chicken and peanut butter on that. We use the squeezy smooth peanut butter on that. That is a prep must-have. If you haven't already, go to Aldi and get yourself one. Last prep I was using the Whole Earth one, spending about £5 a week on peanut butter just to have the squeezy one. Now they do it in Aldi for like £2, so much better. That's that. Like I said, I do 12 grams of peanut butter on my chicken, bit of ketchup, salt. Unreal. That's something else I was addicted to in prep. Right at the back end of prep, when I was doing like my depletion weeks, and I'd be down to like 50 grams of carbs a day, and then when carbing up as well, I would have chicken, rice, peanut butter, ketchup. That was like, I can remember it now, that was just insane. Salt on there. You know, those are the meals that I was craving. I was craving rice cakes and jam and peanut butter and banana, because that's what I used to carb up on. And chicken, rice, peanut butter, banana. Those are my two staples. When I came off stage for the last time in 2023, first thing I wanted to have was like half a bag of rice cakes. You know, just go wild on the jam and peanut butter and just sit there and eat. And that's what I did. And then we went to Five Guys and it all got a bit out of hand. But so what we do use as well is the ESN. So I don't think I've talked about it, but I'm working with ESN. Have been for the last 4 months. So I've only been using their supplements for the last 4 months, and they've been class, really, really good. Quality of supplements are great. Everything tastes amazing. The whey is perfect, mixes perfectly. You always tell if it mixes perfectly if it takes how many shakes it takes to mix it. It takes about 3 or 4 shakes to get it fully mixed, which is great. So we're using the designer whey, which has been my staple from the start. In this meal particularly, I like to use the white chocolate pistachio. So that's that there. We do 40 grams of this. Always weigh your whey. I like to say, always weigh your whey, because the scoop is never, it comes out a bit green, which is a bit weird. But I do 40 grams. At the moment, just give you reference on how much whey I'm having. I'm going through about 3 of these tubs a month. So yeah, that's kind of how much, but how many meals? Probably 2 meals a day I've got whey in them. And I used to do that when I used to buy my own whey as well. Just a bit of a staple, so that goes in there. Give that a mix. Add a bit of salt, because this meal's got to have a bit of salt, even though it's a sweet meal. We've got to add a bit of salt. So mix that around. So yogurt in, peanut butter, whey, then mix. Otherwise it will just get too much to kind of mix everything together once we've added the Rice Krispies. So once that's pretty much mixed in, tear it, and then we go with the Rice Krispies or rice crackles. I went to a food shop the other day, and I was like, okay, I need some Rice Krispies. Stand down the aisle. Rice Krispies were like £2.30 for a box. This box, rice crackles, 79p. Like, you know. So I like buying the brands, but when you've got a deal on it like that, it's pretty hard to say no. Especially when I'm using quite a lot of it. So that gets mixed in. I was doing about 150 grams of Rice Krispies in this in the peak off season, with about 30 grams of peanut butter, honey, banana. This peak off season was 1,000 calories, this bowl alone. And it would make up quite a lot of my rest day food, to be honest. Even the rest day food was about 5,500. So that gets mixed in. Like I said, when carbs get reduced, this meal will pretty much be chicken and salad. Everything will get taken out. We then add 1 banana. Some people weigh the bananas, I've seen that. Never done that in my whole life. I suppose you can get really, I'm very much to the T with everything I do. But there's just some things like weighing out banana, which I understand, I get. Maybe if you're trying to be very, very detailed, which I get, but I haven't been told otherwise not to do that. So you're going to be a few grams out of, kind of whatever you choose to do. And then we go cinnamon. This is the ground cinnamon that I use. Schwartz, Amazon. Instead of buying the ones from the shop, which cost much more. And that's that. That is kind of a solid bit of that meal. Got about 3 minutes left on the chicken, and then I'll show you how we dress that up. So the chicken has just finished. So I'm just going to whack it out, show you what's what on that. So yeah, 190 grams raw chicken, salt as usual, because we need to spread this over all our meals. And then we're going to go 12 grams of our peanut butter, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then ketchup, because as Sebum says, even though I'm not the biggest classic fan, but ketchup is life. I'm a Sebum fan, not a classic fan. But that goes well. That is that. Chicken, peanut butter, yogurt meal. I'm not sure what the calories are in that. All this meal, it's probably around 6 to 7, maybe 600-700 calories in that. That's meal 2. So I'm going to go through my next kind of 4 meals pretty quickly. I think I've done a lot of rambling on in the first section of this, so I'll just cut to the chase, sit down with a meal, tell you what it is, boom, because that's what you want to see. You don't want to hear me ramble on about everything under the sun. So yeah, I'm going to tuck into this and we'll see you later. I almost forgot the key ingredient to my second meal, or when it gets to about 2 o'clock, half 2. See if I can do this without dropping it. So you can guess what it is first. Wait. You already hear what it is. Liquid gold. Right, so meal number 3, going in. Pretty simple meal, one of my basic ones that I use all year round, off-season prep. This is in at least once a day. Today, on rest days, twice a day this meal. So we've got 80 grams of jasmine rice, 2 fillets of cod, some country mix veg, which is cauliflower, carrots, green beans, broccoli, peas, and then banana as well. 1 banana, and that is meal 3. To be honest, I'm not hungry at all. So it's quite a strange feeling being in prep and being like 13 weeks out, just not hungry. The only time I'm really hungry is at the start of the day. You know, when I train fasted, come home, you know, I'm getting a bit hungry towards the end of the session on the way home, and then by about meal 2 or 3, I'm pretty fine. And hunger's not really there, but like I've said, food is still high. So, you know, I probably shouldn't, you know, be that hungry yet. Kind of wait till we get down to about 8-7 weeks out, you know, when body fat levels start to really drop, and everything starts to ramp up a bit. So that's where we're at. To be honest, you know, I'm still just quite sick of eating, to be honest. Just from the off season, it got to the point where it was just a lot of food, and I was sick and tired of eating, and putting that food away, and you know, just because the amount of meals is still the same. Obviously, the portion size is a bit smaller, but it's still having to eat 6 meals a day, you know, which is just a bit of the grueling part. Brings back a bit of PTSD from the off season, to be honest. You know, not being hungry for 24/7. A lot of years in that month, a lot of months in that year where I wasn't hungry. But yeah, you know, it's very nice to be able to kind of put down a meal and not be full. you know. I'm not hungry, but I'm not full at the same time. So it's actually quite nice just to eat a meal and be done with it, and you know, not find it hard to get down or anything. It's a very nice break for me. You know, I've always said like I like to use prep, even though you know prep is for the goal in mind, competing, winning shows, you know, dominating whatever class I go into. Prep for me is also a break from the off season. You know, it's a break from eating that amount of food. It's a break for the digestive system. You know, I competed when I did 2023. We competed in the first 11 weeks of prep. So we did 11 weeks of prep, and then I did my first show, which was Manchester, and came third. And those 11 weeks, I was, you know, hunger was not there at all. Managed to get down to, you know, managed to get down to obviously stage lean. Wasn't peaked. We didn't peak for that one. That was in September, and then we peaked for the October show, which was the finals that I did. I was, you know, back in that prep, we did start at kind of a leaner physique, so that's why it only took us 11 weeks. Obviously this time around we've taken 15 months out of the journey to focus on off season and putting on size. So obviously I was carrying more fat than I was in 2023. So obviously just having to take longer to take that off, which is why we're doing 19 weeks, I think. 19 weeks out is when we started. For my first show, you know, we're going to be doing a handful of shows this year, so, you know, biggest start position, but I know we're going to be, you know, much more improved come show day. In terms of stage weight, what I think I will come in at, probably looking at about 7 to 8 kilo heavier than I was in 2023 this year. You know, I'd love to step on stage at like 120 kilo. That'd be pretty cool. But we're probably looking at like 117, maybe 118 when filled out with the carb up. So pretty close to what kind of I was going for anyway at the start of the off season in 2023, 2024. You know, I wanted to be 10 kilo up, which we pretty much are. You know, my off season in 2023. Sorry to keep throwing around years, but just giving you some reference really. Off season peak weight in 2023 was 126 kilo. Peak weight in this off season was 145 kilo. So, you know, a big difference. So yeah, to be 7-8 kilo up in stage weight, I'll be happy with. You know, if I get to do a show, if I get to do a show at like 120, that'd be pretty cool. You know, extremely filled out and maybe come in like just a bit fuller and less dry. But I don't know. Luke's got a game plan. He knows what he's doing. I don't really. I don't ask questions. I don't kind of put my input into it. I trust him with every single inch of myself. You know, there was nothing that I question, or, you know, when he checks in and he gives me feedback, there's nothing where I go, I don't know about that. That's the game plan. That's what we're doing. You know, I've trusted him from the start. You know, he's already made my dream become reality of competing and winning shows. You know, when I did my first ever show with Luke, we won the overall at first timers. You know, that for me set in stone. You know, this Luke knows what he's doing, and since then it's like the job just gets done. He tells me what to do, I do it, and there's no questions asked. Obviously, if I have a question about, you know, kind of why have you done this, why have you done that, then I'll ask him. But it's all pretty self-explanatory. He knows the ins and outs of it. I just need to copy what he says and make sure I'm doing everything to a T. And you know, the plan unfolds from there. So full trust. We've got big goals this year. again, I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop. I could talk about this forever, but yeah, meal 3 going down. We'll get this in, and we'll talk to you there. So for our next meal, we have got, what meal is this? 4? Yeah, 4. Chicken and rice, 80 grams of jasmine rice, 200 grams of chicken, country mixed veg, and we'll go for Dr. Pepper cherry today. Not a massive fan of the cherry one, but I bought 6, so I'm gonna have to drink 6. My favourite beverage would be a Dr. Pepper Zero. That was always got that when I went to Five Guys. Five Guys was a staple twice a week in the off season. Every single week would be a Five Guys. It's one of those meals where I would just see bodyweight move every single week. I had it. I was in an off season always looking to add a kilo a week, pretty much, 0.5 to a kilo a week. So to do that, when you're hitting base food, like we talked about today, 7,000 calories. You need food, dense food, like Five Guys or any other sort of kind of food like that, to push body weight even more, instead of having to add more base food, which could cause digestive issues. Five Guys was one of those things where no digestive issues at all, went down really well, tastes really good, and helped push body weight up. It was I tried so many different restaurants and fast food chains, and nothing compared to Five Guys in terms of what it did with body weight, and it helped hold body weight for a few days, which is what we wanted. So yeah, this is meal 4. I'm going to watch some Suits. Been watching that for the last few months. I'm hooked. It's the only thing I've watched in the last few months. I haven't really touched YouTube. I watch YouTube during cardio, and then Netflix is always a go-to with meals. So that's what we're going to get into tonight. I've got some prep to do. Last few jobs of prep to do today for tomorrow's dinner. I've got about 1,500 steps to do left, so 15 minutes of walking, which I'll do after meal 5, before meal 6, and then meal 6 and then bed, and then we're in for pull tomorrow. So pull session tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that one. Looking forward to beat some numbers. Pull is still moving well. It's still, we're still seeing improvements being made across the board with reps and load moving up. So we've just got to keep that moving. Pull and legs have been the 2 sessions that have continued to scale up with improving. And then my 2 push sessions, probably for most of you, it's pretty common that that's the first thing that kind of starts to stall or maintain. As long as I'm maintaining, then I'm in a good place. I'm 10 to 12 kilo down now from my peak off-season weight, and still able to maintain, if not progress, my off-season numbers. So these numbers that I'm working with right now in training are my off-season numbers, and I will keep that the same for as long as I can. In my last prep, I got it up to 6 weeks out, where I was still holding numbers, and then Luke told me to back off a bit. So we'll probably get to that stage again. But I just feel like when you're training, especially in prep, you've got to continue training the way you train. You got to think in prep, it's all about holding the tissue. Now, the body's not going to hold the tissue if you start to change up what you're training and how you're training. So if you train so hard in the off-season, intensity, full send every session, everything to failure, past failure, intensifiers. If you do all that in the off-season, and if you do it for a long enough time, you put on a lot of size. Come into prep and you switch things up and start to drop load. Think, it's all right, I'm in prep, I don't need to train as hard. I'll bring the intensity down a bit, I'll leave reps in reserve. The size is just going to go away. The body's going to be like, well, you're training less intense. You're not taking the muscle to failure. We don't need it. So the body will get rid of that muscle eventually. if you continue to do that through prep. So you're going to be looking at like, you know, getting to being on stage and be like thinking I'm not as big as I thought I was. That's because if you went down that route of switching up your training and training less intense, less hard, you've lost muscle in the process of being in prep. And the goal is always to maintain, if not add a bit more size on. You know, I'm still viewing this currently as an off season, really, and training as it is an off season, doing my absolute best to progress my numbers. Even if I know I'm going in and the last 3 weeks I've maintained a set, I will still try and progress that set. Because I've got the food with me, yes, it's lower, yes, I've lost 10 to 12 kilo. So, you know, physically, it might be slightly impossible to progress, but we can't think like that. We have to think there's always an opportunity. You know, you might just have a stronger day one day. You know, I'm someone, me saying all this, I'm someone who's quite married to progressive overload. I say quite, I am married to progressive overload. With my logbook and everything, I still log everything up until show day. Not a session does not get logged. So I'm always tracking my numbers. I always know what's going on. And, you know, if you are to follow that route, you know, you have to be accurate with everything. You can't just get to prep and say, I'm not going to have the logbook, I'm just going to kind of go from memory. If you go from memory, you'll start to take load off the bar. Trust me, you will. Whereas I want to go into the session and I want the logbook to force me to do the sets. You know, my logbook's filled out week to week with the numbers I need to hit in terms of maintenance or progression. And I have to go in there and hit them. If I don't hit them, I have to write in my logbook that I didn't get that set. And, you know, that's not a nice feeling if you have to do that. I've had to do it before. You know, I'm not saying I'm absolutely perfect because no one is. I've had to do that before, and in the last couple of weeks because of the weight drop and just the food drop, the added cardio. You know, less power, less strength as the set goes on towards failure. But you just got to keep your composure. You know, stay in that positive mindset of continue to improve. So, yeah, a little section on training there, but we're just going to talk into this. The next meal is another fish and rice meal, so I might give you a glimpse of that, and then we'll hit last meal. So in for meal 5. Meal 5 going down pretty much the same as the meals before. 80 grams dry weight jasmine rice, 2 fillets of cod. We've got peas in there instead of the country veg mix. Bit of ketchup, salt, and then 2 peaches left over from today's prep for my dinner tomorrow. So just thought I'd nail them. Pretty nice after meal. And then the last 1.5 litre of water going down as well. It's about 9:45, 10 to 10. So I'm still stuck in my routine that I was in at the peak off season, where I was going to bed at midnight, 1 in the morning, and get training a bit later. The training time has come down. It used to be peak off season, it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock. Now it's about 7. So we are coming down. We're getting back into what I want to get back into, which is the 6 a.m. starts. It's like yesterday, for example, last night, I set my alarm for 5 a.m. because I'm always kind of hopeful that I wake up at 5 a.m. Didn't hear my alarm at all, woke up at 23 minutes past 7. So you can, you know, that just, it tells me that my body's not ready to get up at that time, at 5 in the morning, obviously, because I'm just not hearing my alarm at all. And I'm just not tired. It's 10 o'clock now, I'm just not tired, I'm not ready for bed. And it's sometimes it's worse to kind of try and go to bed and force yourself to sleep, because then you just toss and turn for like 2 hours and then go to bed at 12 anyway. So I'm kind of working my way back into my normal routine, but I need to remember You know, I'm bigger, I'm heavier, I'm holding more muscle mass. Body probably needs more rest than it used to, you know, when I used to do the 6 a.m. starts. So I'm trying not to stress about it too much. There's the odd day when I'll wake up at 5 and I'll be wide awake, you know, and I'm able to kind of get in the gym earlier. But there's some days like yesterday, like this morning, when I woke up at 23 minutes past 7, you know, and it's, I still got in the gym for 8 o'clock and did cardio, but it's still like, I love getting into the gym as early as possible, and just getting that chunk done, because my training time now, with what I have to do in the morning, so obviously I train fasted, I have to do cardio as well, and steps. That takes me about 4 or 5 hours in the morning to do. Training takes 3 hours, half an hour of cardio, an hour of steps, posing. It's a lot. And say if I get to the gym at 8, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. I'm home at 1 for my first meal, which I've done, you know, which I've been doing for a while, and it's not the routine I want to get into. I do want to try and get out of it, but at the same time, I can't do much about, you know, not hearing my alarm when I'm fast asleep. You know, it is what it is. So it's just a bit annoying right now. I'm just trying to figure out things. I feel like I'm just gonna have to, I know I just said about not going to bed and forcing yourself to sleep, but I'm just gonna have to try and get to bed earlier, and maybe invest in some ashwagandha, sleep aids as well. But I know as well, the further my body goes down in body weight, the lower my body fat levels go. I know I'm going to be waking up earlier anyway, so it's like I'll eventually be in that routine. It's just when. Probably when I get down to about, what am I now? I'm 128, so probably when I get down to about like 125, something like that. So I'll maybe be like 7 or 8 weeks out by then. Yeah, 7 or 8 weeks out by then. So I'll probably be back in the routine by then. So I'm just trying not to stress about it, and you know, it's not too bad. It's just my brain and how I work. I just when I was doing the 6 a.m. starts, it was so good. I just enjoyed it. You know, I enjoyed getting in the gym at that time and getting everything boxed off, you know, by about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was home to have a nap, you know, and eat my meal and have the whole day ahead. Instead of now, it's like with my business as well, you know, I'm rushing home to have a meal, and then I'm kind of late to start prep. I'm kind of starting prep around 2 p.m, which is just not ideal. It's just not enough time. I just feel I'm wasting time. So it's just something I'm dealing with in my head by myself. So we'll just see how it goes. But get this meal in now. I've been editing this video today, like as and when, and realised that it's going to be like an hour long. So apologies about it being so long. I just ramble a lot when it's like these full days of eating, because I don't know, I'm just passionate about what I'm doing, and you know, I'm just trying to share the journey and trying to share as much as I can, and that takes a while. And you know, this topic, bodybuilding in general, is a topic that I can talk for hours on, because it's so like dense in my brain that it's all I think about. And you guys will know if you're, you know, this obsessed and passionate about something, it's all you think about all day. So I could talk about it for hours and hours and hours, and never get tired of it, you know. So it's for the guys who are in that position, then this is probably a good video for you. If you're not, and you're just here for fun and whatever, apologies. I'm not the most outgoing person. I'm very much an introvert. I love my own time, my own space. I try and spend as much time in that position as possible, because I know that it just keeps my stress levels down. I know that it's the best place possible for me and my bodybuilding journey is to be in that position, because it's where I feel the most happiest, to be honest. Anything outside of that gives me anxiety, to be honest. and I don't like that situation outside of that. You know, whether I'm happy here in these four walls, in the gym, in those four walls, and that's pretty much it. Anywhere else, I'm pretty anxious. I don't really like to be in those positions for long periods of time. So yeah, we're gonna sink this meal. Again, watch some Suits, chill out. I've been boxing my steps off in here, to be honest, because it's been tipping it down, so I don't really want to go outside. I've only got about 500 steps to do, so I'll get them done between the next meal, and then we'll be on to our last meal, which I'll show you, and then we'll go to bed. So we'll see you then. So we are at the end of the day. It is gone 11 o'clock. Time for last meal going in. So we've got a shake, which I always do last meal. Always did in the off season. Just continuing to do that at the moment. Just like I said, hunger's not really there, so we don't feel the need to have much of a solid meal. This is a first course. So we've already got in here, because of the rice cakes and jam, got 54 grams of oats, 40 grams of whey, 29 grams of jam. That's it actually. That's it for that one. And then we've got six rice cakes, 30 grams of jam, 25 grams of peanut butter. So yeah, this is my pre-bed / pre-workout meal, and I won't eat in the morning. I'm not actually having my carbohydrates tomorrow in my intra-workout, because basically we put Clen in, obviously at the start of prep for cardio, so pre-cardio. I was using Clen on my rest days, so 3 days a week. Now, because training is still very hard, so training is still very intense, I did cardio after my leg day on Tuesday for the first time this prep with no Clen. Cardio after my leg day, after a 3 hour leg day, 30 minutes of cardio, trying to get heart rate up to 135 was tough. And I think my thought after that was, if I do this every week, I'm not going to be able to recover and fatigue's going to mount. So I had a chat with Luke and said, let's put Clen in every single session, every single cardio session now. So he wants to take my intra-workout carbs out so that we can utilise Clen after my training, basically. And what I'll do is I'll have my normal training session. I won't have carbohydrates in, probably have some protein in, the clearway isolate in there, in my intra-workout, aminos and all that. And then 20 minutes before I finish my training session, I'll sink down the Clen, give it 20 minutes to warm up, and then hit cardio. And basically just going to get better results from that. More benefit when utilising Clen on an empty stomach and using it fasted instead of with a meal, basically. So that's kind of what we are going to do tomorrow. So yeah, this is last meal. A little tip, because I'm having rice cakes and jam, just reminded me of it. A little tip, if you are peaking for your show, and you're in peak week at the moment, and maybe you're in your carb up, because this is what I did for some of my meals, not all of them, but some of them, because you want to come in as dry as possible. That's obviously the goal. You don't want to really hold as much water. You don't really want to have to use diuretics or anything, or you don't want to use as much diuretics leading up to the show. So you want to come in as dry as possible. When you're picking your carb sources for your carb up, don't get too excited and don't start adding, like, if you haven't had square bars for 20 weeks, don't start adding square bars in. Don't start adding food you didn't have in prep. And the main point I'm trying to get to, utilise dry carbohydrates. So utilise as many rice cakes as you can, jam, things like that, things that don't contain water. So say if you're cooking your rice, right, and you've filled up the pan right to the top put your rice in, cook your rice. You know, you'll leave it for 12-15 minutes and all the water will be gone because all the water's gone into the rice. You then eat that. You're going to then store that water you've just put in the pan, if that makes sense. So you've got to make sure, one, you're cooking your rice properly and well timed so that it doesn't absorb too much water. So it might sound stupid, but kind of slightly undercook it, or get it absolutely spot on. Just try not to use as much water in the pan, because you're just going to hold water from the rice. So maybe alternate your carbs with rice cakes and rice, or go potatoes, things like that. That's if you're kind of in a position where you're holding a bit of water. You know, you might go into your peak week and carb up completely dry and absolutely fine. Then, you know, go for it and have as much rice and kind of water-based carbohydrates as you want. The same goes for like creamer. If you're using creamer rice, you know, try not to make it really runny. Make it thick. So you're using just less water, basically. Or if you're measuring out your water for the day, make sure you add that into what you're having in terms of the food as well. Don't add on top, if that makes sense. So this is the last meal. I'm gonna go to bed after this. But yeah, it's been a long one. Again, like I said, apologies about how long it's been. But I've kind of enjoyed sharing today, and just talks about prep in general and bodybuilding. It's been good. So I will kind of continue to do this. Just finding the time, you know, it's just when I'm not too busy, choosing a day to do a full day of eating, because it is you've got to be kind of in a position where you can film every single meal. So yeah, we'll bring more to the table in terms of full days of eating. Like I said, every maybe 2-3 weeks I'll drop one out. Like I said, I still need to do a training day, full day of eating, so I might even do that next week and kind of get 2 on the bounce. But yeah, appreciate anyone who's got to the end of this. Hopefully you've taken some tips from it. If you have any questions regarding anything I've said or explained, drop in the comments below, or go to my Instagram, henry.taylor, drop me a DM. More than happy to run through anything I talked about, or questions about the off season, questions about prep, peaking, etc., and all that. I know I said my main job at the start of this was private chef. I'm also an online coach, been coaching for a while. Got a good set of guys under me now, who are working really hard. Some guys in prep, some guys just about to go into prep, and other guys in peak off season. So, you know, you might look at my page and be like, he's full bodybuilding. I don't just take bodybuilders on. Majority actually are lifestyle clients. So if you are someone who doesn't want to compete, don't be turned away by that. I still do offer the service to lifestyle clients as well. So if you're interested in any sort of coaching, again, drop a comment below or reach out to me on Instagram, drop me a DM, and we can have a chat about your goals and see what we can do moving forward, which might help you out. So yeah, guys, full day of eating done. Appreciate you guys watching. Stay along for the journey. Appreciate everyone following the journey. If you are staying within the videos, weekly videos, we've got 12 weeks left, 13 weeks left to get absolutely inside out shredded. So it's going to be good. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to kind of documenting as well, as I always do, and take you along for the ride. But until next week, see you soon.